And we'll call for a motion.
Sorry, you cut off there for a bit.
Calling for a motion to approve the minutes for our last meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Barbara, this is Tony.
Hi, Tony.
How are you doing today? I think we should, for the minutes, indicate that there is a quorum present of the commissioners.
Yes? Oh, right. So we have, all right, very good. Let the minutes reflect that there is a quorum of the commissioners here. Thank you, Tony. All right. Shall we start with the executive director report?
Absolutely. What I have to report today is activities of the ATC Field Enforcement Division since our last meeting in regards to their activity. Report that in cooperation with other allied agencies, there was 2 arrests for the smuggling of untaxed cigarettes into the state of Maryland, which resulted in the confiscation of 29,840 packs of cigarettes and 2 vehicles. Also, there was retail violations that occurred through inspections that were conducted by agents of the Field Enforcement Division during last month. We had a confiscation of 48 cans of beer that were purchased from none other than a Maryland wholesaler. There were 4 arrests resulting in confiscation of untaxed tobacco products from retail stores, which included 20,686 sticks, which would be cigars and so forth, of other tobacco products, and 70 packs of additional cigarettes that were untaxed. There was one case where agents made confiscations, and as a result, there was CDS found on the premise, so no charges were filed by us. The state's attorney for the county involved decided to pursue only the controlled dangerous substance charges that were filed against the persons at that location. And yesterday, last evening, agents of the Field Enforcement Division, along with members of the Prince George's County Liquor Board and Bowie Police Department, conducted a search and seizure warrant on an unlicensed hookah tobacco shop in Bowie, Maryland. As a result, in that raid, that search warrant, they found 36 sticks or tobacco of hookah, 5 bottles of liquor, and 2 bottles of wine. There is one defendant pending charges who is the owner of the establishment, and the charges are being forwarded to the Office of the Attorney General because there was violations dealing with the submission and remission of sales and use tax that was not taking place. And that's the information I have to present regarding the activities of the Field Enforcement Division for the past month.
Thank you, Tony. All right. Next on our agenda, Murray was going to share with us an overview and a dissemination of our rules of procedure for this commission.
Good afternoon. I have collated for the members of the board to ensure compliance and for efficiency 3 major sources. When you start looking about after the rules that are the rules that control the way an open meeting should occur and the way the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission should work specifically, they're dispersed. You find them in the alcoholic beverages article. You find them in the general provisions article. That's the Open Meetings Act. And the Open Meetings Act has been construed and interpreted by the Compliance Board of the Opens Meeting Act, which is located currently with the Attorney General's office. You put all that together and you probably have a good 150 pages worth of provisions and interpretation that I do not think left apart lend itself to easy compliance. So what I've tried to do is, when I was thinking about it, is put together 5 or 6 pages. If you follow what's on here, it should keep the commission out of trouble and doing the right thing. Also, you'll see referenced in these rules Robert's Rules of Orders where they do not conflict. And just for your own edification, or for your knowledge that will be important for moving forward, should the commission decide to close a meeting, which is controlled by statute, there are 15 categories that you would have to locate the reason in order to close a meeting. For example, let's say you wanted to have a discussion about personnel, and it's a private discussion. You can close that meeting, but there's a whole procedure you have to go through. So all of that is referenced in here. Robert's Rules of Order, which I've referenced, has a different procedure for closing a meeting and does not comply with the Maryland statute. So basically what this is a means for the commission to operate according to law. And what we thought the best way to do this would be is to distribute them to the members. Any discussion that you want to have about particular rules, you can have that today. And then at the next monthly meeting in May, you can vote to adopt them. So that was my thinking on this topic. If you look at it, it has 6 sections, one about composition, one who are the officers, the notice and agenda requirements, how the meeting should be conducted, closing a meeting, and then a miscellaneous section, which I added at the last moment. But I just wanted to make clear that we have, independent of all this, there's another source of laws and rules, and that deals with the retention of documents. So that's also referenced there as well. I think the best way to proceed is to, at least you'll have an idea as to what may be an issue, and when you have a question, feel free to call, hopefully before a meeting.
Thanks, Murray. Has everybody had a chance to review these? Did anybody want to bring up any thoughts or comments or questions on these while we're here? All right. So next meeting, we'll have these on the agenda to vote to adopt if there aren't any further amendments. But it looks very thorough and helpful. So put that down for next meeting. Next item here is 2021 Maryland General Assembly update.
I provided every member of the commission a breakdown of what I found as statewide legislative bills that have passed both houses and are now in the hands of the governor waiting for signature. The first one is House Bill 12, and a co-sponsored bill in the Senate is SB 205. These bills relate to alcoholic beverages sale or delivery for off-premise consumption. And what it does is allows the establishment, a retail establishment, to deliver to customers alcoholic beverages for consumption, but it can only be accomplished in conjunction with the delivery of food. This bill has a 2-year sunset provision, so it goes into effect July 1st and will expire on June 30th of 2023, if no further action is taken by the legislature to extend it.
Hey, Tony, what constitutes food?
Something you can eat?
Would that be a bag of
I would
pretzels, or is that
imagine,
like an omelet?
I think it would be more than potato chips.
Okay.
House Bill 185. It prohibits the requirement of a customer to have to purchase more than one drink when entering an establishment. And this was explained to me as dealing with issues like up in Baltimore on the block where they have like a 4 or 5 or 3 drink minimum when you come into an establishment. This would prohibit that. It takes effect October 1st of this year. The next one is House Bill 1232 / Senate Bill 821. It's alcoholic beverages manufacturer licenses and off-site permits. Both bills passed and are in the hands of the governor. This is emergency legislation and goes into effect upon the signing by the governor. It has a sunset provision ending December 31st of 2022. It repeals certain provisions relating to brewing company, winery, and distillery off-site permits. And it merges existing off-site manufacturer permits into one universal permit. So instead of defining it per each classification, it's now under one permit, covers all. Allowing for the holder of the off-site permit to deliver its products to individuals in the state. Allows a brewery special event permit. Alters the volumes of beer that a license holder may produce and distribute annually. This is a correction provision set in the 2020 legislative session and failed to make it to print, and this corrects that issue. House Bill 1324 / Senate Bill 883 again with co-filed bills for the same topic. Both have passed their respective houses and are in the hands of the governor. It's tobacco tax and sales and use tax, out-of-state sales of premium cigars, pipe tobacco, and tobacco smoking devices. It creates a new section of law, 16.9 of the business regulations, which will require the ATC to develop a new license to comply with the section of the law as it's going to be defined. And it allows for a remote tobacco seller license. This is going to take effect July 1st of 2022. So we have 1 year to prepare for this. The purpose of the bill is to collect the appropriate taxes on premium cigars and pipe tobacco sold into the state by out-of-state providers. It removes tobacco pipes from the definition of OTP and sets a 12% sales tax rate. Under a previous definition, it would have required a 53% sales tax rate on those pipes. So this corrects that. Senate Bill 787, it deals with digital advertising, gross revenues, income sales and use tax, tobacco taxes, and other issues. This was emergency legislation. It goes into effect when signed by the governor. It set a start date for the new tax rate as March 14th, 2021, along with the provisions that were provided in House Bill 732 of the 2020 session, which was vetoed by the governor and then overrode at the beginning of the legislative session for 2021, which set the current tax rates that we have now dealing with cigarettes, OTP, and ESDs. The tobacco tax went from $1.75 a pack to $3.75 a pack. It went up $1.75. I'm sorry, from $2 a pack to $3.75 per pack. The tax rate for OTP was increased from 30% of wholesale cost to 53% of wholesale cost. And ESDs changed from 6% to 12% sales tax, and EST liquids that were less or equal to 5 millimeters changed from a 6% to a 60% sales tax. And that's the conclusion of the bills that I found that were statewide related. There are a whole number of local license bills that were passed that are still pending.
Tony, do we know if any of those increased taxes are earmarked for anything in particular?
No, I don't have any information dealing with how it's earmarked other than general funds.
Okay.
Hey, Tony, do you mind if I jump in for another quick question?
Sure.
So the property that's seized, the automobiles and the cash, etc. How is the disposition of that property handled, and then what happens to the proceeds?
Proceeds would go to general fund. How it's handled with these vehicles, we make a decision on whether or not to file for forfeiture of the vehicle. And that decision is based on whether or not those vehicles have any liens against them. We would review any liens that are against the vehicle and weigh the cost of that lien to pay it off versus the profits that would be made in selling it at auction. Any vehicles that we keep and decide to go to auction that have no liens, those funds, again, go to general fund.
Copy that. Can you utilize those vehicles for the use of your enforcement operations?
I do not believe so. I believe they have to be sold at auction.
Thank you, sir.
I just had two very brief questions about the two two of the bills. So for I guess HB 185, I'm just curious about what the enforcement mechanism is for that. For
Mostly that would be for the local liquor board to handle. It's a statewide provision that would apply to all the 25 jurisdictions, but the enforcement of it would not come from the ATC. It would come from the local liquor board.
Okay, and for the bill the bill right after that, HB 1232, it says like the merger merge existing off-site manufacturers permits into one. So I'm just curious about the cost of that kind of universal permit. I'm just curious about what the cost would be for that permit. Is it codified or is it just to be determined?
The licenses and permits are codified on the amount they are charged. I don't have the information directly in front of me, but I will make a note and get you that information.
Hey, Tony, I think it's around $25. It's not that much.
Okay, so like the large,
really,
so that now all these things being pulled together, it doesn't create a new cost. It's all.
No, it's each of these were $25. But what was happening is if you had a brewery license, you might be eligible to go to, let's say, 6 events. And if you had a spirits, a distillery, maybe you went to 12, and wineries could go to 32. It just said, let's make them all 30. Let's make one permit. They all have the same rules.
Perfect.
Same price as if you purchased them individually.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm thinking if we move forward as these bills start to go into effect with the dates that you mentioned, Tony, in the future when we have some staff on board who can engage in activities, it would be nice to do a little before and after comparison of experiences to see if the impact that they're hoping will be happening is actually what happens, or if anything unexpected might come up.
Okay.
I know that'll be further down the road as we flesh ourselves out a little bit, but
yes.
I think we ought to have some time on some of these too.
Well, going forward for the next legislative session, the plans would be to incorporate this information to the commissioners on a regular basis, and if issues need to be addressed, then we can address them and forward the information where we need to forward it to try to address those issues.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Does anybody have any additional questions for Tony? Hearing none, shall we move on to new business? So we had discussed the nomination of a chairperson, having lost Len at our last meeting. And it sounds like we are waiting until we have the appointment of a new member to bring us up to our total of 5 members, and then nominate a chair at that time.
Barbara, I can report that I've been in contact with the appointments office this week, and they are still vetting the applicants that they have. They have not made a decision yet.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, legislative and mandated reports. Tony, were you going to speak on that?
I can. This is simply an item on for new business for next month's meeting to consider what items that we might want to start addressing out of the mandated reports and surveys that the commissioners are supposed to start addressing within the legislation or the bill that was passed on the purpose of the commission. So I would say between now and the next meeting, you review those requirements in the law that the commission is supposed to take care of and maybe prioritize what we want to start talking about.
Great. Does anybody have any additional questions or comments at this point in time? I think we
No.
know the date. Go ahead.
Do we have a date?
For the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at the calendar here.
I'm saying May the 20th.
That sounds right. Yes, May 20th.
And
3
then
p.m.
I'll request Mr. O'Leary to go ahead and post that on our website as the next scheduled meeting, so it'll be out there for the public to do it.
Thank you. All right. Well, it looks like we're going to be able to adjourn early today. But I feel like we're getting a lot of important pieces in place. So with that, I would move that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.